Whoever is listening, guys, welcome back. My name is Grayson Mann, and welcome back to another episode of the Man with a Plan podcast. Today, this is an exciting thing, guys. So if you didn't know, my high school, I graduated from Pinewood Preparatory School down in Somerville, South Carolina. And today we have the new leading man for Pinewood football who just made the semifinals last year in the Skis of 3-4A playoffs. DeVonte Holloman, former Gamecock, former Dallas Cowboy, now taking charge at Pinewood. We're super excited to have you, man. And not only that, super excited to have you on this podcast. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you for taking the time.
I appreciate you having me. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to be at Pinewood and, excited about this opportunity.
Absolutely, man. So we're just going to go from the jump. We're going to go from your football career. We're going to talk about USC, your time as a Gamecock, your time in the NFL, and then we'll talk a lot about Pinewood, I'm sure. So usually with these type of guests, I always want to ask, where did you get your start in football? Was it a practice? Was it maybe you were playing out in the yard and you're like, man, this is really something? Or was it a coach, maybe a player? So through that start, what was that like? Take us through that journey.
Actually, man, I was scared to play football for a long time. Didn't really start until about 10, 11 years old. I had maybe tried it out at 10 years old. It really didn't go well. Found another team led by Coach John Jeffries, a guy who really sparked my interest and, made my love for football appear. Not really grow, but he really instilled it in me. So about 11 years old on, football was kind of my passion along with basketball. And about 10th grade is when I started receiving offers and things in football. And that's where football kind of took the main stage.
So for you, and we can get into this and talk about your commitment to USC. There's a little bit of a snippet that I found about your decommitment from Clemson, but I think before we get into that, what is the difference? And I think college football players before NIL have such a unique perspective on recruiting and how that process goes. To you, how much has it evolved? And when you look at it, are you fascinated by how it's changed? Or do you think college football is kind of strayed away from what made it unique in the first place? Take us through that recruiting process. You can touch on the Clemson thing if you want to and talk about USC, why you chose that. But I think also what's fascinating is the time frame that you committed in, and you can compare it to now, how different college football is.
I get asked a lot, especially by Clemson people, about my commitment to Clemson for a short period of time. I think it was maybe my 10th grade or 11th grade year where I was committed to Clemson, and I was a highly recruited player out of high school. And my head coach in high school at the time was just, me as well, kind of overwhelmed with the amount of schools and phone calls coming by every day. And it just got to a point where he was like, I think you need to make a decision just to calm this down so you can focus on the season. And at the time, I was, really in love with Clemson. I had been a couple of times. I was recruited by Billy Napier, who's the head coach at Florida. Really, really loved him. It just felt right at the time. So I made that commitment. And then I think at the end of that season, Bobby Bowden was fired. And that kind of made me open my recruitment up just a little bit more, open my recruitment back up. And after taking a couple of visits, just during the time period, that was when the SEC was dominating. And, one of my goals was to go play with and against the best. So I started moving in that direction. And that's what kind of led to my, decommitment and then commitment to the University of South Carolina, wanting to stay close to home. Had a chance to play early. All of those things kind of went into my decision of making that decision. But in terms of recruitment and how it's changed, I think it's definitely changed for the better in terms of a player standpoint. Now, it makes life hard for the coaches, but if you're an actual current player in the NCAA, I think that recruitment, really, really helps you. Now, it hurts the high school kids with the transfer portal and things like that. But I really, really love what's happening in terms of NIL, those things, just, taking care of the players having a little bit more power, things like that as well. So recruitment has definitely taken a huge turn since I've been recruited. And I think we're still in a day and age now where it's kind of like the Wild West. Everybody's still trying different things, trying to figure out what works best for each school. Um, I do commend Coach Beamer, Chance Miller, those guys for the plans that are in place at South Carolina to take care of the players, not only just, the scholarship players, but as well as the walk-on players, outside of football, just, because a lot of the time commitments to football, to school, it really doesn't allow you much time for a job. Again, speaking from personal experience, my junior and senior year, I actually worked at Firehouse Subs on campus at nighttime, just trying to, earn a little extra money. And, that became another thing that was on my plate. But, in the times that they're in now, they can take better care of the players, and they will allow the players to hopefully focus on school and football more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that you hit on a lot of the great points where the players do have a lot of power and that their future is they can start to earn some money. And you see like in the Clemson world, you have Cade Klubnik who's signing deals with these local places like Ford and being able to make that extra money and be able to have that as an asset and be able to use their talents to really, because the NFL is not a reality for everybody. And if you can capitalize on that skill and that ability in that 4-year stretch, got to be able to do that. And so for you as a coach, when you talk to these high school players and you have people having to deal with recruitment, having to deal with, oh, where's the best place where I can maximize my money making in a sense? What's the best advice you could give to a high schooler right now who's dealing with that stuff, who might be feeling overwhelmed, might be saying, hey, if I go here, I may not be able to earn as much or be able to play as much. And that's a lot of pressure. So what do you say to those kids who are making those decisions right now?
I always tell them to, go to pick somewhere that you can see yourself going to school, whether you're playing a sport or not. Also pick somewhere where you can see, or that has good connections in terms of where you want to live and things like that. Just because most people end up living in the area where they went to school, based off a connection standpoint. But the on the field stuff and off the field stuff, I just tell them to pick a school that they can see themselves at, whether they were playing sports or not. Let the rest handle itself. Anywhere you go in the country, you're going to have to compete. So, playing, saying I can go play here, I can go play there. Well, you're going to have to earn it either way. So I don't really talk about playing time or things like that. Just really truly, making sure you pick a school that has your major, making sure you see yourself being there for 4 years, whether you're playing a sport or not. And then also thinking about life after college, the connections, the people that you'll meet and things like that. In general, terms of area that you want to be in. Those are the things that I really talk to the kids about when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. So for your time at South Carolina, now Clemson fans that are listening to this podcast, just brace through it. It's going to be okay. But this period that you were at South Carolina, I got to say it's probably one of the best eras. This 4-year stretch that you were with Steve Spurrier, dominance against Clemson, SEC East title. Jadeveon Clowney is a big name that pops up. You guys had a lot of success at your time at Carolina. Can you walk us through your career at South Carolina? What made it special and just some tidbits here and there that you want to maybe share with the audience? Because I think personally as a football fan, you take the Clemson part away from it, the Clemson student part, what Spurrier was able to do in an SEC that was dominated by Alabama. Georgia was really great at the time with Mark Richt. You had Urban Meyer in Florida with still in that conversation. What made it about South Carolina that was a special place at that time?
I think it's no secret. There's a lot of good players in the state of South Carolina. If you can win majority of those guys, keep them together in state, your chances of winning are pretty high. Along with some of the guys that we picked up from North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. If you start with South Carolina, win the state in recruiting, I think it goes a long way, just in terms of football. So you have myself, Stephon Gilmore, Alshon Jeffrey, all come out of the same class. The following year it was Lattimore and his crew, and the year after that it was Clowney and his crew. So you kind of see the big pieces, of course, started, and then the other players in South Carolina kind of stay home, and it was just special to be at home, play with those guys, and represent not only for our university, but for the state of South Carolina. I think you end up with like 3 Mr. Footballs in a row at the University of South Carolina, along with, again, like I said, Melvin Ingram, who was really, really one of the top players in North Carolina, who was already there when I got there. Cliff Matthews, I think, won Mr. Football a year before I got there. So,
Wow.
you put together a string of maybe 4 or 5 Mr. Footballs from the state of South Carolina, along with some other talent. And that's, kind of what set us apart. And you see that happening again here in South Carolina now, where we're, really pushing and getting the guys that we want from the state. Clemson's done it as well over a period of time too. So, I think that's really where it starts. And then finding those other pieces outside the state. So winning the state in the recruiting battle is definitely important. And I know Coach Beamer and Coach Dabo or Coach Sweeney are trying to do those things year in and year out.
Absolutely. So I want to take you through your freshman year. So I believe it was 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? So is that the
Mm-hmm.
year that South Carolina had Alabama at home, and that's the Alshon Jeffrey game where he went ballistic? Is that year, or is it 2010?
So no, my freshman year was probably the worst out of the 4 that I've had.
Okay.
I think we did make a bowl game. We went to the Papa John's Bowl and lost to UConn. That we did beat a number 4 Ole Miss team, so it wasn't like a terrible season. We had
Yeah.
some big games, and actually the Ole Miss game was the night the Sandstorm was born. So I was there for that. But it was after the bowl game at UConn where a lot of the players just kind of sat down. We all came from winning high schools and just weren't used to losing. Me myself, I really wasn't used to losing because I think I only lost 3 games in my high school career football wise. So, a lot of those guys, a lot of us came together and just, decided that we were going to do whatever it took to not let this happen again. So you saw guys kind of stay in May through the summer. Guys were showing up on days that they really didn't have to, really working for it and wanting it. And we made it happen. I think that following year we won maybe 9 games, and then my last 2 seasons we were able to win 11 games. So we took a step forward every year. But like I said, after that first year, we knew that wasn't the standard that we wanted, and we really came together, put the work in to put South Carolina on the map like we did.
Yeah. And you mentioned all that NFL talent that you guys had. What was it like to be able to play with those guys and be able to say, hey, I'm, like you said earlier in your recruitment, I want to be able to play with the best of the best? Looking at it now, and you have guys that are still in the league at this point, what is that like when you reflect and go, man, I was able to play with that amount of talent? How did that make you better as a player?
Practice was competitive every day. It was almost like you didn't want anybody to one up you in practice. You had to be at your best every day in practice. Being challenged by the offense, and our offense knew if they could move the ball on us, they could move the ball on anybody. And then defensively, we felt the same way. If we could stop our offense, we could stop anybody. If you could tackle Marcus Lattimore, you could tackle anybody. So the iron sharpens iron, and that was the approach that we took every day, not only from a player standpoint, but from a coach's standpoint. Coach Spurrier did a good job of driving that competition, but also taking care of the players in terms of our bodies and things like that. Spurrier is probably one of the best player coaches that I played for in the sense of just taking care of your players. But, it was just a really good time for us to learn how to compete, and it really, really prepared us for the next level. So that's why you saw so many of those guys go on, get drafted, or whatever route that they took to the NFL and have careers in the NFL.
Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned Steve Spurrier is just that great players coach. I hear some stories from colleagues in the media that are talking about when they early back then in their careers, when they were having to interview Steve Spurrier after a Clemson Carolina game and just getting these legendary just sound bites, these moments. To you, do you have a Steve Spurrier moment like that where you're just like, wow, this guy is truly exactly who he is? He's a legend of college football. Is there a Steve Spurrier moment for you that just sticks in your mind?
I don't necessarily have one moment. A guy like that who's played and done the things that he's done, you really truly hang on to every word that he says. But it's really truly his delivery that may make one talk bigger than the other. So I do remember maybe it was after my freshman year we lost to Arkansas at home, and he made the whole team come in and watch film together, and that he really held everybody accountable offensively and defensively for everything that we did. From the quarterback to the long snapper to the kicker. Everybody was held accountable in that meeting, and it just showed that he's not going to say one thing in front of coaches or other players that he wouldn't say in front of the whole team, and that just kind of is one moment that stuck out in my mind. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was my freshman year, and we never wanted to have a meeting like that again because it was rough. But it kind of set the tone of who he was and what he expected from everybody on the team during that season.
Yeah, I've heard fantastic stories about him, and I think that it's just fascinating to be able to hear the player's perspective from that angle. So I want to quickly touch on your NFL career, and then we're going to get into your coaching career and lead it up to the decision for Pinewood. So for you, you had a quick NFL career with the Dallas Cowboys. So can you take us through that draft day process, realizing, hey, I'm playing for what many view as America's team, playing under Jerry Jones. At that time, it was Jason Garrett, Tony Romo. I think 2014 you were on that roster, and they ended up getting to the divisional round of the playoffs. Can you walk us through your NFL career? What was it like playing for America's team from a player's perspective? Because it's you hear all that talk about the Dallas Cowboys, but I think to hear it from a player who's been there and experienced that, what is that like?
My draft experience was stressful to say the least. Just not knowing, and then I was a late round pick, the waiting. But when I finally got the phone call from Jerry, it was like a dream come true. And a week later, I was off to Dallas. Actually, I trained in Dallas, so it worked out perfect to where I was already kind of there. And playing for the Cowboys was an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm forever thankful, and a Cowboys fan to the day I die for that opportunity. But it was great to be coached by some legends. Jason Garrett was the head coach. Monty Kiffin was actually the defense coordinator at the time. So just to learn from those guys who had been there, seen it all, coached some of the best players. It's crazy the film catalogs that they dig into to show you the defenses. So I was watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Derrick Brooks, those guys, on film, trying to emulate those things, and really felt myself get better in a short span. Under those guys, and the Dallas Cowboys in general, man, it's such a huge, everything is such a huge deal. Media is constantly looking for a story. I don't want to call it a circus because that seems like a bad term, but it's just the spotlight is always on the Cowboys, and you kind of sort of get used to it and enjoy it a little bit, but at the same time, you're very weary of it. But it was a great experience for me to live out my dreams and be a Dallas Cowboy.
Is there a moment in your NFL career that sticks with you? Or maybe it's a play in practice, maybe it's a game where maybe you had a welcome to the NFL moment. You're just like, oh my gosh, like this is truly it. Is there a moment for you? Maybe it's how positive or negative?
Yeah, it was when I, really truly made the team. We started getting ready for preseason, and I found myself out there, with DeMarcus Ware lined up on my right, Anthony Spencer, lined up on my left. I'm learning under Sean Lee, who was, the starter at that time. Had guys, trying to teach me really, really fast because I made a transition from safety to linebacker. So Bruce Carter, Justin Durant, just all of these names that you see on TV all the time. And then you get to practice and you're literally going against Jason Witten, a future Hall of Famer every day. Listening to Tony Romo and his football mind, which is brilliant. I think that was kind of like my welcome to the NFL moment, along with Dez Bryant, the intensity that he brought to practice every single day, and every drill. Like that was, an experience in its own, and something that I carry with me in the coaching world, that competitiveness. The things that I learned and saw to this day.
Is there a rep against an NFL player like you mentioned, Jason Witten, that you got one of them? Maybe you had a pass deflection against Tony Romo or something like that, where you look at it now and you're like, man, I still can't believe I did that.
I look back at my NFL experience as a whole that way. No one play, but I will say, as a rookie, I don't know what it was, but Jason Witten really gave me all I could handle every day. I don't know if it was him trying to prepare me for, Mondays, Sundays, and Thursdays, but we competed every day, really, really tough. And maybe got into a scuffle or two, just football scuffle. But I know what he was trying to do. He was counting on me. He was trying to prepare me for what I was getting ready to face as a rookie.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about your coaching career, and doing the research, said you started as a video analyst under Steve Spurrier, and you're able to also work under Shane Beamer So to walk us through from the then to the now, where did you grow the most as a coach, and how do you feel like working with guys like Beamer, guys like Spurrier, helped mold you into the coach that you are today?
Well, when I was done playing with the Cowboys, I immediately called Coach Spurrier and asked if I could get into coaching because I knew I didn't want to be away from football completely. So I did a year, like you said, as a GA video analyst kind of sort of deal. And that really, really, made me love the coaching side of things. And, that was probably the year that I learned the most about football in terms of X's and O's and planning for practices and things like that, and why coaches did some of the things that they did. And I think after that year with Spurrier was actually the year that he left. So I kind of left as well and looked into the high school world, and I joined Beaufort High School down in Beaufort, South Carolina. I was just a DB coach for a year, and that's really where I found like the pure love for coaching. I think high school level is like the purest form of football, just because of its, hopefully. For most schools, it's less politics. Kids are really hungry, trying to make it to the next level. So I quickly climbed the ladder in Beaufort. I was a DB coach my first year, and the defense coordinator the next 2 years, and then head coach my last year at Beaufort. And really enjoyed those years and grew a lot as a coach. Learned from some older coaches that taught me the ropes about coaching high school. And then after I left Beaufort in 2018, I went to South Point High School, where I graduated from. And if you know anything about that, man, it's high expectation, in terms of football. It's almost like state championship or bust. So I didn't win it my first 2 years, but was able to win it my last season with a great group of coaches, great group of guys. And then from there, I got the call from Shane Beamer, who, was really trying really, really hard to get former players on staff, and really, show the incoming players or players that were there now the culture and the meaning of being a Gamecock. And I want to say, like, I can't pick between Coach Spurrier and Coach Beamer, who I learned the most from, just because it was two different times in college football.
Hmm.
Coach Spurrier was, almost living in the old college football world where, I like to say things were a lot more simpler. I'm not going to say easier, but a lot simpler. The things that I've learned from Coach Beamer is trying to manage a team and coaches in this craziness of college football right now with NIL, transfer portals, and things constantly changing. I think he does a good job of coaching his coaches on how to deal with these situations, and then also putting the right people in place, to better his program and to try to get everybody on one accord in terms of his vision for a program. So, I picked up a lot of different things. I'll say from Spurrier, being a player's coach, how to handle players, and then from Beamer, I really learned how to handle coaches, how to handle everybody within the organization, and trying to get them on one accord, which is what I'm essentially doing here now as the head coach at Pinewood.
So yeah, well, that's fantastic. I think that high school sports, like you said, it is pure, and it is that in that sense. I think one of the great things that I enjoy watching high school football. I love going to practices and just kind of seeing that next generation in a sense. So for you,
Mm.
what led to the decision to come back to high school football and be the leading man at Pinewood, and just take us through that hiring process? What was it about Pinewood that sold you and saying, "Hey, I can be the guy to chart a new course for this program"?
Well, after spending a year at the college level, it was somewhere where I really, really wanted to be. But I really truly missed being a head coach. Having an impact on, not just defense or offense, but having an impact on the whole team, a whole community. Those are the things that I really, really missed while I was at the college level. And when I came to visit Pinewood, our head of school, Dan Siden, did a great job, and I really love him as a person and his vision for this place and what it can be. It's a high academic school, but he's really passionate about making the athletics match the academics. So, we were in the works or it just finished, but built a brand new athletic facility, turf field, with all the bells and whistles that a college program would have. And then we talked about some things going forward, the vision, his vision, my vision, things that we needed. And we already have, more than enough things that, can prepare us for where I want the program to be, but just in our talks, things that we can do and get even more to prepare ourselves. So I think the vision is lined up, really, really well. Personalities lined up really, really well. And after touring up the campus, just seeing the students, the people, and how real everything was here at Pinewood, it's just a totally different feel from the public schools that I've been to. A lot more focus from the kids, a lot more focus from the adults, and it was somewhere that I could see my kids going to school and see myself being and representing. So that's ultimately what led me to this decision.
It's fantastic to hear, especially as someone who used to attend Pinewood. It's a great new direction. So for you in these first couple of weeks, I know spring ball has just started, and that's always an exciting time, especially for high school. What's the general vibe from the team? I don't want to you don't have to give any secrets away or anything like that, but what is the general consensus so far? It's a team that I've watched grow up before my eyes, and I'm really excited to see where they take this new season. What's been the first couple of days of practice like?
I think we have some really good senior leadership. A group of seniors that really love not only football but love their school, and want to set the tone for me going forward in terms of football. Along with that, I think we have a lot of really good young talent, a lot of freshmen that played varsity last year that are going to have to grow up even faster and become sophomores and leaders this season. So with the senior leadership that we have, the young talent that we have, I think it's a recipe for a really good football season, and I've been enjoying it so far, getting to know the guys, getting to learn the players, as well as the coaches. A really good coaching staff, a lot of guys who really truly care and share the visions and what's the word I'm looking for? Share the values that I have as a head coach, which makes my job a lot easier. So so far so good. Still a lot of work to do, but I'm excited about what this team can do this season.
Fantastic. So just the final question, do you want to be able to send a message and be able to leave on a great note to the fans, alums, and people that are really excited and hearing the news, giving, DeVonte Holloman, I'm excited about that. What is your message to people that are, what should they expect in the fall? What is your message? What should they expect from DeVonte Holloman?
I'm not a one-man crew. It's a team. But I will say the teams that I've coached always play super, super hard until the clock says 0-0, no matter what the score is. And that's something that, when I watched the tape from last season that Pinewood has been doing, and, just hopefully continue to move the program in the right direction. We were 6-6 last season, and which is a step forward. We're able to make the playoffs, and I hope to continue to push the program forward in a lot of different ways on the field and off the field. Of course, my goal personally, and I'm sure everybody else, at least at the beginning of the season, is to win the state championship. But we'll take it one game at a time and one practice at a time, and that's what we're doing now through spring.
Absolutely, man. So this is episode 121 of the Name of the Plan podcast with head coach DeVonte Holloman of the Pinewood Panthers. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And thank you so much, guys, for all the support you put on our last podcast with Clemson Rivals writer Larry Williams. Guys, we're trying to reach 20,000 listeners across all of our platforms this summer. It's going to be a goal that we're going to reach super quickly, and we're very close to it. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for the support. Have a fantastic day, and take care.